This is going to be my third AMA Ask Me Anything video on the side channel here. If you're not already a member of my Patreon for the side channel, $10 and above allows you to ask questions for this AMA. You can also support the channel. Easy ways. You can thumb up the video or leave a comment, but you can also buy some gamer subs. I think it's the best energy formula out there. Doesn't have any of the downsides of a lot of the other ones. No fillers. Tastes are all delicious. No chemically flavor. Just has a nice nuanced flavor. Some of the new flavors that are out are pretty cool too. White grapefruit is really refreshing. Really lives up to the name. Arctic Coolers, this green one that tastes quite nice. I'm not actually sure what the flavor is. Everyone knows the name Anime Girl Thigh. Sounds a bit crazy, but it's actually Orange Dreamsicle. So if that's your sort of vibe, check it out. Obviously get 10% off with the code Thorin, THORIN, at GameStopsGG. You can use the link in the description box below. Also, the links for the Patreon will be down there too. Now, the last one of these had, on I think the first question, I did a 20-minute answer to. And that's how I want these AMAs to be. I actually want to be able to take my time with it, answer properly. I don't want it to be back in the day, my main channel AMAs sometimes used to have 30 questions in each. So some of them I had to just go through quick and go, yeah, I could probably do a video on that one day. Obviously, I'm going to start doing that. I've got some coming soon that I'm doing polls for where people can vote for the longer ones. But I'm trying to get these ones on a day where there's no half-assing for any of it. Air Delosi says, on your podcast, you've mentioned your extensive background with esotericism, secret societies, and magic, as well as learning game. Did you delve into the dark arts to score? Right. Maybe you just don't know where I'm at in the latter few years, because the Thorin persona that I did on Desks years ago, and in fact, who I was until about, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I think actually around the time where we all had to stay in our houses or whatever, I also made sort of a transformation in a few different areas. I'm not someone who's into degeneracy now. I'm not someone who's into casual sex or trying to trick people. I mean, I was never trying to trick people anyway, but that's a naive young man's way of thinking, oh, you learn the lines, you don't that's not really my style. I actually have a sort of radical authenticity now, which isn't the same as having no tact and just saying any old thought that comes in your brain, double style, but it's about basically figuring out a way to show yourself and key parts of yourself to people in a way that engenders them to get more invested and interested. So I would just say, in general, people will know I don't talk about magical/occult experiences. I just think it's a bit irresponsible, and I think it's a personal quest. I also think it's kind of tacky to actually just air that out there so people can sort of get off on it. But I will say, I mean, you sort of touched on it there about the idea of learning game. One thing I've learned from all the social aspects I've put time into is persuasion, which is what they call pickup artist game now, is essentially, like all communication and all social skills, it's kind of hypnosis. It's about things like shaping people's perception of who you are and what you're saying. It's about altering their symbol representations for what something might mean. Something about yourself that might have seemed like a weak thing can be shown instead in a way where it's a strength, or it's something interesting or unique about you. I mean, I often tell people in esports, for example, who are broadcast out from other countries, if they have a French accent, they get very sort of self-conscious and go oh, my English is not so good. I am very dead say I will think I cannot speak English. And I'm listen, once you get to a certain level of fame, that will flip 180, and that will be what will make you unique on the English language broadcast. And as people get to know you and like you and look at you and enjoy your personality, they'll get more and more and more keyed into your way of speaking. Not only will they understand you, but actually they'll love it. And then also classically, a lot of accents, particularly something like French, sound fabulous to the English ear, even if you're a little bit broken with how you speak. State changes are a key concept, I would say, to learn. I mean, these are all things that would seem like magic. Remember, magic is the art and science of changing perception in accordance with will. This is one of the main things that you're doing. I mean, the reason Alan Moore claimed he became a magician is because he realized one day, wait a minute, all gods and demons or whatever inarguably exist in the human mind and have effect over it, etc. Now, from that stepping stone, he went to another place. Now, you could say it's a bit like Lon Duquette saying that it's all in your head, It's just you don't know how big your head is. Essentially, what's in your head might actually reach outside your body. Maybe that would be the way to say it. Maybe there's a collective unconscious or something. So I would say there's definitely a lot of that. I would say how you change people's feeling towards you or the vibe in a room. These are all things that can certainly seem like magic. So yes, there are pickup people. In fact, a lot of the pickup people, you'll notice, transition from pickup to other things once they learn the skill set. Like one of the all-time classics is that guy, Owen Cook. Just go and look it up. You can see, you look at him and you'll think, has he really got skills? He's got fucking mad skills. What are you talking about? And he's now expanded out to do all sorts of like self-improvement and life type stuff. Just a really interesting guy. If you want to actually look into things like hypnosis and persuasion, well, the way for the corporate world that they took out the occult element and made it seem like a palatable thing was it just got renamed to NLP, didn't it? Neuro-linguistic programming. By the way, I had an interview with Josh Lisek, a ghostwriter, about these topics. NLP in general, Richard Bandler's books, the early ones have a lot of this stuff in it. They go into a lot of the things of how you set things up and frame things and use language to change where people are and what they're thinking about. Brilliant for business, brilliant for deals, negotiating. By the way, social scenarios are a sort of a negotiation too. They're a way of signaling that we're similar, we're on the same page. One of the reasons the Thorin inquiries are so good is, have you never noticed that the people being interviewed get the vibe that I'm either like really big fan of theirs, or I agree with all the things they're saying, or like I understand everything they're saying, or maybe I think the same way. It's not actually true, by the way. Now, I'm never lying to them, but I'm able to find common ground. I'm able to build rapport. I'm able to show them parts of me that do overlap with what they're into. I'm able to make interesting points that stimulate them to make it. These are all skills I learned. You can just learn these skills. I mean, I'll get this in a later question, but I was never good at this stuff in the beginning. Also, if you want to use some actual magical concepts, how about taking like occult and ceremonial, occult and alchemical correspondences of the notion that certain things connect to other things. So there are colors that connect to symbols, that connect to words, that connect to states of feeling and mind and seasons. And I'll give you just a classic one. Even something as simple, you might think it's just fashion. Yeah, that's another thing. What they did with all the occult tech, just had the names taken off, the scary part taken away, and was just sold to you as marketing, business negotiation, social skills, public speaking, like animal rearing. All this shit is just stuff that basically was already built in. Religious stuff becomes like football and fandom and all that crap. So basically, what you do is you just find the right colors, symbols. So an aspect of that you're going to underestimate is learn things like what your look is. Learn things like how do you pair colors with your hair color, with your skin tone, with your eye color? Like, I'll give you one that I didn't know for many years, and it should have. It was right there in my face the whole time. What's the most famous picture of Thorin on the internet being used a billion times? It's the one from DreamHack Summer 2014 when I came back from Korea, one of my first times extended staying there, and I had that very unique Korean jacket that doesn't have a proper like set of lapels on the top. It's very thin, and it's a light, almost a cloud blue, or an azure blue, actually. It's more like that, right? Well, what I didn't understand was, because I have blue eyes, that actually brings out the colour of my eyes and makes them look almost like I'm in fucking Dune or something. It looks sick. And that also then contrasts very strongly back when I had a thick red beard with the redness of the beard. And that was making me look mega unique. Like, I'm not going to exaggerate. I have actually had girls in Korea that I dated or had relationships with that told me one of the first things that attracted them to me was that they thought I looked like Vincent van Gogh. And to them, by the way, remember, they have a very different perspective. They thought that was very handsome. So things like that are mega underrated. These are things that you're going to think, well, do with the dark. Yeah, because you're putting it in a Hammer horror box. You're thinking it all has to be some stupid Marilyn Manson / Church of Satan bullshit. So I will say, one of the reasons I also not only never recommend people do occult rituals, but also I will say, I think if you do it with bad intentions, I think if you're too much on the left-hand path, I think automatically it does come with a kind of karmic or psychic backlash or price to pay. And I think it's just usually not worth it, especially when you can just put your time into actually leveling up your skills. I mean, I once told a guy once, who was like a mega nerd and could never talk to girls and felt really shy about it. I said, if I could tell you a special magical sort of avenue you could be initiated into where you would learn like how do you say, like incantations. You would learn special words to say, certain actions to do at a time of day, certain exercises to undertake. And yeah, there might be some initial struggle, or you might have to put time in, you might have to overcome some feelings you don't like. But eventually, almost any woman you meet, you can connect with them, and you can potentially sleep with fabulously beautiful women and women that you think are way out of your league and all this crap. Wouldn't you do it? And he's like, oh, of course I would. I said, that is literally what I'm talking about when I say you can level up your social skills. You don't need magic, mate. I mean, Crowley once had a thing where he said, like, the most magical way to open a door is you just walk across the room and turn the handle. Why would you sit in your room all day, zim, zalabim, zalabim, and try and do a contract, a pact with a demon? Or if I give you this and I'll give you blood and alcohol at the right time and every day and I'll put you on him, just open the door for me. You wouldn't, you'd just fucking level your skills up and go and open the door. And spoiler, you can open the door, or if the door doesn't work, you can go in through a window, or you can come down the chimney, or you can go over a fucking bridge, or you can fly, or you can go through the basement. You can do a fucking million things, is the point, when you put your mind to it. So you don't need any of that shit to pick up women and to score. It's actually a very, I would say, an incredibly superficial way to live your life. I don't think it's living your life with intentionality and caring about your life and other people. So to me, you don't need any of that shit. What you need is abundance mindset. You need a little bit of courage, another skill you can build up, by the way. You don't have to be born with it. You've got to put in reps, actually talking to women, talking to people, meeting women, trying to go for it. Just build up the raw numbers. You talk to 200 women a year, you're going to have some success. You can at least make some female friends that you can then at the club see and then talk to, which then another girl notices that you didn't notice, that later on you go and talk to her, and now you've got some social proof that you're not a weirdo because you've got some female friends that are hot and you seem like you're on cool terms with them. You're not like a little puppy dog behind them begging for some pussy. Like, you're not doing any of that. So you don't know how big this thing is. How about this? Become selective, not selected. Once you actually get some game and some skills, you're not going to think of every vaguely attractive woman as like, oh, I hope I can get with her. You're actually going to go, like, I'm going to talk to her a bit. And actually during the conversation, once you have skills, you're going to realize, there's a lot of red flags here. This would be a nightmare. This could ruin my life. This just wouldn't be a fun night. Seems actually a bit boring, a bit superficial. And you'll have times where you get to be the one that selects. Jan says, do you think that universities have been and still are the best places for people to acquire knowledge? Is it something you would recommend to young people? I mean, I can't, because I quit university and I didn't find it very effective, especially because at university, the teachers aren't there to like teach you and make you learn. They're there to provide you with the lectures and the materials to learn from, but it's all on you. So I would actually say the other reason I think I don't agree with it personally is I've learned I am an autodidact. Like, I'm the best person to teach me. And in fact, I think I was always teaching myself. Other people can only maybe help me along the way or point things out that I haven't noticed yet. So I would say absolutely not. I don't think they have been, quite frankly, from my research, since the days when good public libraries existed or the internet came along. Once upon a time, remember, they would have had most of the books. They would, once you got through the door, have been the fastest and the cheapest way to consume insane amounts of knowledge across different fields. Like a university library back then would be amazing. No matter what subject you were doing, you could just go and read books from the other sections, couldn't you? Also, I would say it depends on who teaches there. Like, one of the lecturers, if it's like some epic guy who's the best in his field, maybe it's worth taking a course from him. But then again, maybe you don't have to do the full degree course to get that right. I would say in the modern day, you can usually read the books and the essays, and there's other ways you can do it, right? I think political ideology, crucially, has hollowed out universities and wears them like a fucking mask since about the late 60s onwards, and now is insanely bad. Like, some of the academic fields, it's not even worth going into because you'll just be learning a bunch of shit. Like, 99% of the academic stuff that tells you, like, this is what Jesus would have looked like in the past, or this is what the ancient Britons would actually have looked like. Well, here's what sexuality was like in the Greek and the Roman time. It's just utter bunk, really, really shoddy work, academic work, and it abuses that sort of peer-reviewed system to a degree that is fucking insane because it's all ideologically driven. So you're actually not learning interesting or meaningful or efficacious stuff, quite frankly. Now, there is a very good reason to sometimes go to a really good university. It costs a lot of money, and that is a really underestimated part, which is the network that you can build. The people that later in your life, you just say you went there as your university, it means something in certain fields. You know someone from that uni, he hooks you up in your field or in another field, or you know a guy that knows a guy. That is a big, big deal. Those relationships in business can be everything. So in that sense, for certain fields, I would say it's worth going. The problem I have is, I would say in general, you're going to need in life to learn how to teach yourself. So one aspect I'd say if you're young and you have the money for it is it's a bit like getting a personal trainer. Look, in theory, you don't need any weights. You don't need a personal trainer. You don't need the gym. You could just do a load of exercise in your house. You could run up and down the stairs. You could run on the block. You could do like pull-ups on like a fucking whatever, like a swing, like the frame of a swing. You could do anything. You could do all the sit-ups. But will you make yourself do that? Will you set aside the time? Will you force yourself? Will you push yourself through your initial tiredness to your second wind? Will you make yourself hit goals and target? Maybe not. So actually, maybe it's better to have a personal trainer. Maybe that'll help you. Maybe that'll push you. Now, you don't always get that. I would say maybe get a tutor, maybe in these areas, but potentially university could do that. Maybe the pressure and the expectations of succeeding could do that if you're the right person. The problem I also have is, especially in countries like America and the UK, to be fair now, they do intentionally make that debt so insane that it's a way to trap you in the rat race forever. That's absolutely a key part of it. So I do think that can kill your spirit completely and put you in a massive hole, especially in the US. And then also, what in theory used to be one of the positives of going, they're like, oh, you pick a university away from your family, so you get away from them, and then no one knows you, and you get to become whoever you want to be. You can see how this has all been fucking hijacked and used in really sinister ways. And then also, you get to fuck around with the other people on Freshers Week, and then there's girls there, and they're promiscuous, and they're sexually experimenting, and you're trying drugs and alcohol and new experiences and new music. A lot of that, the problem is I don't like degeneracy. I actually do think it's fucked up. I think it's bad for the soul. So I think degeneracy actually, one of the selling points, ruins it for people. I think it actually ruins their academic career. I think it fucks them up in a weird people. I think it makes you a pleb in the rat race. So I've completely changed my mind on all of that. And so no, in general, I don't. Like, I can't personally recommend it. But then again, that's me recommending. I'm not saying I know completely for everyone what it's like. Chaos Magician says, do you have any self-improvement tips specific for people on the spectrum? So he means on the autism spectrum. I mean, the funny thing is, this will all apply to anyone, but people on the spectrum particularly, because you might have never thought of some of these angles. And the problem for people who aren't on it is they're going to think, well, I don't need that, I already know. And ignorance is what will stop you ever learning. Your cup is full, so you can't pour any more in there. So first and foremost, work on social skills. Understand they can be learned and mastered in the same way as in StarCraft, you can improve your APM and your mechanics and understand how to be smoother with your builds and understand the flow of a game. In any area, you can level up. You can learn a language. You can learn about trains and memorize. You can do social skills can be worked on in the same way. And by the way, when you get good, you can not only beat naturals at it because they haven't had to work on it, but especially people who are just in the middle, you leave them in the dirt. Look what I've done in my career as a broadcast analyst. People, if I hadn't told them, would never even guess I was on the spectrum because I'm just better. I seem like I'm naturally funny. I'm naturally outgoing. Like I'm bold in my opinions. I can be combative, but I can also listen. I must be empathetic. I've learned all these fucking skills. Now, an obvious area is looking into pickup artists and people who teach game, because that's a particular area that's going to help you learn to talk to people and connect with people. And obviously you also get to know women and not have that as like a big barrier, or to mentally put women on this pedestal and be dominated by them and never be able to actually talk to them like they're humans. By the way, different from men, but humans all the same. Now, I think in general, social stuff can be learned. I mean, there's a channel on YouTube. I'll give you a free little recommendation. I already said Owen Cook earlier on the other question, but how about a channel called Charisma on Command, where he tries to explain the little games and the little subroutines people are running in conversations to shift the balance of power, or to throw someone off, or to make it so that you're not wounded by a comment someone makes. This is the sort of stuff I think is very interesting. I would also say, one thing I always say, so how I learned a lot of my broadcast skills, is watch stand-up comedy. Think about their routines. Think about why a joke's funny, the phrasing of it, the way they land on a certain word, what's inferred in your mind. There's a massive concept for conversation and jokes, by the way, is you actually want some of it to occur in their mind like they made the thought themselves, but they didn't. You triggered that within them, and that's going to then build a rapport between you and them, make them, hey, it's funny because it's true. Oh, he thinks like I do. Things like that are a massive, massive edge. I would say, a classic one for that would be just watch a lot of Joe Rogan episodes. Those are people just speaking off the cuff, a bunch of comedians making things funny. I would say push yourself outside of your comfort zone. This is essential if you're on the spectrum, because you're going to fall into routines and just do things the way you want it only and never be able to experience new things, accommodate other people, find the overlap, sometimes step out of your comfort zone and not have to have everything your way. Just like if you get a brand new game and you're going to grind it to get good, yeah, it's going to be hard initially. It's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, but you will get progressively better, right? It will become progressively more fun as you get better, and you'll get more comfortable. And you know what? When you get really good at a game, you get a bit cocky, don't you? You get a nice ego going. You'll get that about everything in life as well. Don't just sit back on some like lad anxiety. I'm just not that sort of person. I'm naturally into it. It's all bullshit. No one's naturally introverted or extroverted. That itself is not only a spectrum, but in different areas, there's different parts you like. Like I'm one of those people, if I'm in a room full of people, it drains me a bit. But that's only if I'm there and I didn't have any of these skills. Now I can take a few hours of it. I'm just not the guy where I'd want to be out all the time and be an introvert. So it's not as simple as that. Give yourself the credit that you're more than just these fucking shit little labels. And also never use it as a victim thing. You're not a victim, you're just different. So fucking learn how to harness that difference. Learn how to level up the skills you don't have. And by the way, get better than other people with them. And then also then use your fucking actual skills you do have and your natural things that come with it to leave motherfuckers in the dirt. Instead of it being that you're some super nerd on one area and that doesn't really work because you've only got this horizontal, this super vertical interest in an area. Learn how to use that to become a true strength where it doesn't have to be the thing you even lead with. It's just something you've got in your back pocket that then makes you super interesting when people discover it. I would say learn that your habits and your habit forming mechanics can be hijacked positively. You can use it to remove bad habits. You can use it to insert new ones. And then when they're ones that you like, you're going to suddenly build it up so that actually your compulsion or your comfort will be doing the habit you like. Might be fitness, might be whatever. That's why I did that video about the one thing, so you can learn how to structure your day. That's how I'm able to do so many things now, but not be burned out and grinded to oblivion like I used to be. I would say read tons of books, fiction and non-fiction, but particularly fiction, that are from different kinds of people, different types of stories, different times in history, so that you expand your possibilities and you're not as limited in what you think people are like. I would say when you talk to people, start trying to actually listen and make the things you say questions to clarify what they're saying so you can key in and start to understand how different people communicate and what they were saying. If you just go to people, even if they're interested in your topic, and you just sit there and download all your shit onto them about that, that is a massive turn-off, even for people who are into that field. They will only be able to take you in small doses. And this might be making you realise why people, even who are friends of yours or acquaintances of yours, they invite you out every now and then, but it's only every now and then. And if you try to be like, oh, what about next week? I'm busy, but you know they go out. Think about it. That's one of the problems right there. Learn to find the overlap when you talk to someone. In the same way as I always tell people who are like anime fans, don't just tell me all the animes you're into, because you're going to be into some shit that's your guilty pleasure. Tell me like the 5 animes that from talking to me about other things I like, I'm probably going to like, where there's an overlap between the two of us, and this might be something I'd get into. Like if someone's into medicine and they've watched like the odd Studio Ghibli thing, you tell me, have you ever heard of an anime called Monster? If someone was into like war stuff, or they're into like masculinity, you tell me, what about like Legends of the Galactic Heroes? If someone's into like thrillers and drama and they like some soap operas, well, hey, have you ever heard of a thing called Death Note? And you explain why it's like that. That's what's going to make people interested. So learn to find the overlap. The common ground is where you are going to build rapport, which is what we're talking about here. Then also, I would say build up some very stringent personal hygiene rituals. Autistic people, but especially normal guys nowadays, they are so fucking clueless, like gamers on this stuff. It is mental. There are pro players who were in the LEC and LCS who didn't take showers, and they didn't know it, but people would actually say at the studio, oh, they fucking stink. If you have bad breath, which just means, by the way, you're not taking care of your mouth hygiene, you're not getting rid of food between your teeth, you're not eating reasonable things, and then like you can't just eat a bunch of garlic and just fucking go out straight afterwards to some social gathering. Unless you learn these things, make sure you properly wash under your arm. Not just put some water in there, wash under there until there's no smell. Wash your fucking ass. That's right, we're on some Kevin Samuel shit. Wash your stinky ass. Put on new clothes every day, or every day or two. Dress so you look smart in the right occasions. Dress semi-casual on the right occasions. Dress casual on the right occasions. Do these things and you will make up so much of the gap you don't even know you are creating for yourself with disadvantages when you don't do these things. Also, and this is key, and this will be a bit like an answer later, don't ever be self-deprecating. If you say that, it's never just a joke. There is a part about you that you're sort of trying to make the other person laugh to make you not feel uncomfortable about something inside yourself. When you work on yourself, you're going to learn to love yourself. The way you look, the way you talk, who you are, your background, the type of person you are. You're going to work on your skills. You're going to level up. You're going to get confident because you've worked on your skills and you're prepared. And you're going to actually be able to show off the best parts of yourself. And by the way, along those lines, never talk badly about friends in front of them, to other people about them. Never talk badly about your family or let people know secrets about them from behind the scenes. Keep it in the locker room, keep it in the family room, keep it among the friend circle, become a trustworthy person in this sense. And yeah, find other ways to explain who you are and what you do. Like if you're into some weird thing, everyone is. Everyone's into some shit music or some fucking weird video game or books or weird art style. The point is, it's how you explain it and who you are doing the explaining that makes it cool or not. You can make any hobby sound sick, even if it's train watching or bird watching or some weird historical thing. You just got to learn how to frame it and describe the upsides of it in an abstract way. Like if I was into like fucking train watching, I'd talk about how, like maybe I'm connected to some family figure that was into that, or that I wanted to know about the way like a country operates, and I want to see different different parts of the country and different stops. And then also like I like to get out and about and go and do these things. And there'd be a way I'd describe it where I wouldn't lead with the nerdy anorak angle. I'd make it sound so different instead, and I'd make them tease it out of me essentially. A guy who doesn't want his name mentioned says, you often talk about following your interests, but do you have any tips as to how you manage a balance between breadth and depth, both professionally and in terms of your hobbies? Because obviously I'm into a lot of things in esports and outside of esports. Spoiler, you know the people who are like, oh, he's just a nerd on esports. Anyone can memorize the liquid pit. No, I'm like that on movies, music, comedy, fucking comic books, books themselves. I know loads about like comedy. Oh, there's so many fucking sports. I just do it on all of it. You're just hating because you ain't got it like I do. And if you listen to some of the questions and answers from above, you can actually fucking level your shit up and maybe get on my level. We'll see. I would say, first of all, in the 2000s, when I was first working in esports, I had a lot more spare time in the sense that there was only so much time you could work at the time. There wasn't even that much work to have. And some of it was just mindless work. So I had a lot more time to just watch movies, read. I wasn't scheduling interviews and talk shows and do my research, etc. I would also say, by the way, when you do research in a way where it's very comprehensive, but you actually sort of like save it and allow yourself the possibility to use parts of it for other things. So when you research a player or a sport or a book, you can then also use some of that in something else you do, and it makes your general breadth of knowledge way bigger in the field. I would say pick a figure, an author, an artist, a sports star, and just consume their back catalogue. Go really deep on them, massive vertical dive, and then when you like it, find connections to other people that might be similar that you might like. Their rival, another person like that, a historical parallel, someone they copied from, someone they recommend. I also will say, when it comes generally to the day-to-day of this stuff, except when I want to do a deep dive, I'm just skimming off the top. I don't watch every football match. I don't read every comic. I don't watch every movie. I try to just read and consume the best, or the ones that I'm interested in because of that person. And as a result, I'm making way more economical use of my time. I'm never wasting my time. I actually don't believe in wasting my time anymore. I might do a video on that one day. I used to be someone who procrastinated like a motherfucker, even in my time off. Now I use it in a fabulous way where I get through the books and the movies and things I want to do. And I don't force myself to do it for things I'm not really that into, but I wish I was, if you know what I mean. So it's about initially being horizontal in your day-to-day, but then doing the vertical dive into the most important stuff. Also, there's like that Miyamoto Musashi quote, which I actually found out initially years back, like 15 years back, from Joe Rogan on his forums. That way of like, when you know the way broadly, you will see it in all things. I think what you'll find is when you go into certain fields, industries, topics, types of people, you'll find there's overlaps and connections to other seemingly unrelated or disparate fields, topics, areas, and people. So you'll find that the overlap, once you discover it, it's going to help you. It's going to help you start to guess things and know how to navigate new areas, etc. You will find the way in all things. There is almost a fractal nature to certain aspects of even humanity and culture. And in time, I often stress this, but I get that for people already starting out, you don't know what this is. When you learn to listen past desire and bullshit and self-doubt and programming culturally, intuition will take over. I literally, at this point in my life, I can find all these things myself. I'm very good at finding things, but I just now have books and songs and movies and people come into my life at the right time. I've got loads of books I bought, loads of movies I've got stashed away, loads of music I haven't listened to yet. And it's like the right thing will happen as a trigger, as a synchronicity. And I'll know, I'll check out this movie I have by that person. Oh, and then there's that book I was going to read that they were all in their sphere about. And then that reminds me. And suddenly I'm just getting to where I need to go. And I'm getting there so much quicker. It's a bit like what I say about my memory. Like, yeah, it's like everyone has an encyclopedia, but most people don't have the index. So as a result, they have to almost just search from the beginning of the encyclopedia. I know what pages or what sections to go to because I've got experience with it and I know myself. Henoda, do you consider gastronomy/cooking as an art form? I do, but I will say I do not think that's an excuse to be overindulgent and to become fat and out of shape and to ruin your health of it. Like, I think it can become a vice like anything. So I will say yes, but I think only if you apply intentionality. So like anything, getting discouraged is very silly. You have to learn to level up at everything, whether it's video games, talking to people, being a social figure online, even asking me questions. You sometimes got to level up if you actually want to get a good answer, right? So I would say, just like I always say about how the Zen monks are, you learn to just make a cup of tea, and for the sake of making a cup of tea in a very determined way, and you do it with purpose, and you try to do it properly, and you just enjoy it for what it is, and you don't be thinking about a movie and listening to a podcast. You just learn to do it and take the pleasure in doing it and becoming good at doing it and the art of doing it. Now I understand those tea ceremonies and the bonsai clipping. I never did before, but I get it now. I get how it can quiet the mind and focus you and make your life more peaceful. So similarly with cooking, don't just have a movie on the background. I'll be doing this, or you're doing 4 things at once and then that gets burned and it's a bit undercooked. No, do each thing in the order and build up your skill set. Generally just aim to improve. Have fun with it. Have fun is probably the number one thing. Do things you want to do and therefore you want to learn and learn how to cook that. And just build your core skills. When you get core skills, it becomes easy to break the rules and do whatever you want. Also, level up the taste of your food, by the way, with simple stuff like salt, butter, vinegar, spices, herbs. These are so underused by people cooking food. They're just cooking a piece of chicken and some salad. It's just some nightmare food of like, better eat it because it's healthy. You could have made that taste incredible, mate, without even more calories or carbs necessarily or anything. With just the flavors you could have added in, the way that you cooked it, your technique will have a massive, even your presentation skills will change how the eyes take it in. You smell, you take it in through the nose. It's like learning to taste wine, etc. It's not just some pretentious shit. There is something to it. And yes, once you put time into this, it can be life-changing due to the roles of tastes and the senses, etc. And what it'll do to your mind to be doing this. It can also be quite a sort of meditative practice when you apply yourself like I'm talking about. It's a myth, by the way, that good food is trash food or food that just has this extreme taste or it tastes good. You don't even know what your palate to taste stuff is like yet. You haven't developed it. You haven't taken out the mass overload of certain things. So you don't even know what like a fruit tastes like when you haven't banged sugar in your face 24/7 for the last 2 weeks. You will find things like pâtés, things made out of almonds, lasagnas. These can be incredible with it. Meat cuts that have nice cuts, cooked well, appropriately, with the right things added, not overburned, etc. They can become incredible. Basically, the experience could be like taking LSD for how crazy the overload could be and how almost transcendent the experience could be. So like all art, by the way, I think at a certain point in time, you want to be able to personally express yourself through doing all these things. But you've got to at least first learn the basic rules. You've got to learn the basic techniques, understand some of the schools and why they disagree with each other or what came before what and built on what. And then once you've got your core skills, you can have fun with it. You can, in certain weird ingredients, you can try your own unique things. You can get ambitious and try something you'd never try. You can cook something very simple and make it seem awesome and make that really rich and indulgent and luxurious for someone you know. Nothing, oh, he's an amazing cook. That might just be your one little skill to build that one thing at the moment, right? Spoonfed 89. What is the most dangerous train of thought or belief to stoke in one's mind? I would say, first of all, the idea any individual has all the answers. No one does. People have fractions of it or they have parts and then they've got their own agendas. But that doesn't mean you dismiss them. You just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's the Bruce Lee thing. It's the daily decrease, not the daily increase. You just take what works and leave what doesn't. Jeet Kune Do, right? I would say self-doubt is a massive one. There's actually, look, early on, you might be shit. You might be bad at a bunch of things. You might not be a good person. But when you work on yourself and you get level up and you prepare, it's like being a player. When you know you're the best in practice and you put in all the time and you're seeing the skills pay off, of course you're going to be confident. Why the fuck wouldn't you? You deserve to all this stuff. You know who you are. You've earned what you've taken in this life. So I think self-doubt is actually just a sign that you need to work on yourself and you need to understand your wealth, your value rather, and what the wealth in your person is and how you can build up a spiritual wealth, a technical wealth, an expressive wealth, all these things. I would say generally any kind of doomer shit about the idea like of the world, society, people, the future, either the idea it's all over or you can't succeed or it's all going downhill or it can only be bad, there's nobody cool or good or anything out there. It's just nonsense. One of the reasons I always vibed as a kid with the character of Superman was best crystallized by people like Grant Morrison. It's the idea of Superman is he never gives up. He always believes it's possible. And since he has superpowers, he's just pushing the absolute limit test of possibility. Now, as you level your skills up, things will become more and more and more and more possible. It's gradual increase and gradual overload is how you're going to improve in these areas. So to me, all that doomer shit is all bullshit. It's not that there aren't dangers, not that you don't make yourself aware of them all, learn how to defend yourself or how to combat people who have the wrong intentions for you. But that is not ever what overtakes your life and crushes your spirit. You might not know why I'm saying it's all bullshit, and it'll take a lot of research in every area to find out, but you just have to trust me on this one or go and look it up yourself. It is there, all that stuff is programmed into society and is pushed in society and is foisted on you by certain celebrities / academics / figures in your life, quite frankly, to make you give up. It is the demoralization technique to make you break so that then you allow yourself to lose and you allow them, whoever they may be, to win. Think about this for a second. Unless you're naive and just think they're just trying to help and give awareness. They're not. Why would they pour billions of dollars and thousands of man hours and hire tons of people and propagandize all day long to cram it down your throat into your face if the battle was already lost? If you couldn't succeed, if it was over, why would they waste that time? No. They might have you in certain aspects of the world at the brink, but getting you to finally give in and like a vampire, invite them in or just give up your defenses or say, yeah, I guess that's just the way it has to be then. That's what they want at the end because that's the best way. Surrender is what you want from the opponent, not to fight to the last man. That could be exhausting. He might still not win. He might come up with something in the meantime. Also, by the way, tied into this, the notion that like dark or evil shit or like art or imagery is like cool or edgy or metal. It isn't. It's there to actually soft sell you on all the really horrible shit as it being palatable, or it's just an alternative thing like, oh, do you not appreciate why that's actually like cool or different or like, I mean, I won't go too far in that stuff, but there's a lot of stuff I'm not into that people think's totally normal at this point in time. Also, by the way, most people in those fields, the classic thing is, oh, you wouldn't believe it, they're the nicest guy. No, they aren't. That'd be either extreme exception or that's some bullshit that fans as corp want to believe. The reason those people are in those areas is they are fucked up. There was darkness in them. They are serving evil to some degree. Like, people might know this from my Twitter. I do think physiognomy is legit. When you make yourself look ugly and portray yourself in certain colours and purposely take away your natural beauty or your natural strengths and celebrate weakness and disgusting thing and evil and cruelty, there is something that's reflecting about your soul. I mean, I'll give you a couple of obvious examples. My own experience with Frost scoring, I should have watched out for these red flags. Not only was she always making herself the victim, she once even admitted on Reddit that the reason she got that massive kind of fucked up shitty lion tattoo on her neck was because she wanted people to meet her and sort of dismiss her and think like, oh, she's a fucking idiot or something. And then she like wanted that to be their initial there's something really wrong with you inside. There's like there's a hole or a sort of a tumor in your soul when you think that way. I really think so. And so I would just say the classic example would be there seem to be loads of women who seem cool who had like weird colours of hair that aren't natural or purple hair back in the day, right? They just seemed normal. They were a librarian. They looked after the kids, or they were just that friend in the group who was a bit shy, like, and you didn't know what, and they were into like some weird like anime shit. After 2016 and certain political events, you now know those are some of the most dangerous, cruel, fucked up people who will not take responsibility, who are unaccountable. Oh, mate, stay away from people like that. They're a parasite. They're a vampire on your soul. Also, that whole, it's just a movie, it's just an album, it's just an idea. Now, there's certain things when they get in your head, fester, they do beat you down. They do remove your defenses. You experience them on the subconscious level as if they were real. You want that to be your life. Someone's essentially experienced a life as if you had experienced horror and fucked up trauma and war when you didn't have to. Nah, that ain't the way to go. You want to put in beautiful things, things that inspire, make the soul soar. You want to put things in that create connections between things you like that can trigger and remind you of what's beautiful and good about the world. I think a very, very dangerous thought or worldview is egalitarianism. I used to be a sucker for this myself, not even that long ago. Basically means you'll never see people, things and situations for how they truly are, because you'll always be going for a naive ideal that might never have been possible and might have even been conditioned into you by people who didn't have idealistic or utopian goals. They actually had very sinister agendas they were pushing. I think actually you will even try to help people in a way that will doom them to fail. You will expect too much of them or expect them to be like something that they're not. I think you will also be let down. You'll be hurt potentially physically over and over again if you ignore reality that you don't want to believe in, whether that's being mugged when you walk down the street or having someone steal from you in a business or relationship sense or getting involved in a business scam or being suckered into something just because it's someone you know. These things because you want to believe, otherwise you want to believe. I'm not the sort of person who discriminates like that or judge like that. Discrimination, in the right sense, is about sifting shit from shinola. You need to be able to do that. It's an essential skill. If you didn't do that, you'd walk up to a lion and put your head in its mouth because, hey, it might just be a lovely kitty deep down inside, right? That's a great way to fucking die. So there's a reason why you have natural instincts that tell you to avoid these things, that things are scary and shouldn't. Listen to it. I'd also say the notion that you're born with something wrong with you or an original sin or your people did something wrong or you owe people something because of anything that wasn't related to you, it's one of the worst things you could ever have in society. Don't dwell on those things. Don't dwell on the mistakes of the past or horrible things that happened in the past. Look to the future. Build up your skills now. Build up your rapport now. Stay away from the right people. Connect with the right people. Yeah, these are the things that I think are the worst to allow to get into your mind. Hamdi asks for, do you think ADHD is real or is it bad parenting disease or something in between? Right, real is obviously going to get a lot of people into trouble on a topic like this, so I'll frame it in a different way. And I'll also say, I do think, just as a general thing in society, the notion that like the state through public schools is to raise your children, teach them how to read, teach them how to be social, teach them not to be fucked up, is probably the most evil concept I could almost imagine, because it destroys the family unit. It means you don't pass anything through your line and you don't actually be responsible for your own kids. It's pathetic. It's like, can I speak to the manager level bullshit, but about the things that should matter the most in your life. So I think people on a lot of topics ignore all the environment around them and the people they love. I think they ignore the chemicals that they consume and that they put on their skin and that are around them. I think they ignore the medicine options they do look into and they ignore because they think they're silly. I think they ignore the roles of plastics around them. I think they ignore man-made fibers and the effects that those can have. I think they ignore frequencies and what having technological devices around can do to you. I think they don't get enough protein. I think they don't get enough sunlight. I think they don't get enough exercise. I think they don't get enough sleep. I think they don't get enough rest/break, which is not the same as sleep. It's about actually giving yourself a break and actually allowing your mind to sort of decompress. I don't think they get enough food for the soul, art, things, time with people you care about, simple things in life, not things that cost money or are technological. I don't think they get any of these things. I think the notion that you're broken and you can't improve, which goes along with the idea, I've got this or I am this way, I think it's bullshit. I think it's absolute fucking bullshit. Especially, by the way, if you're saying that, but then you're also on smartphones, you're getting bad sleep, you're on your phone until you go to bed, you're surrounded by all these plastics, man-made fibers, you're consuming tons of sugar, you mentally consume trash and stuff you know is bad for you, and you don't consume the things you know that you would enjoy and would enrich your life. You give in to your impulses all the time. I would say an area, because it's the idea of like, oh, and then my thoughts are all over the place and I can't control. Wait a minute, how do you know that? You never worked on it. Like, discipline is something you build up. It's a skill. And I tell you what, when you build it up, it becomes a shield against so much bullshit that you don't want in your life that's bringing your life down. Desire isn't this ever-present thing like that. That's why I can see why people used to think desire was actually the gods or demons or entities influencing them. So it's actually a better mental framework. It's a way of externalizing itself, like in the War of Art with resistance. Instead of thinking it's from within you and it's natural and you're supposed to be a degenerate and think there's nothing good and that the past was always shit and everything's better now and that everyone was a weirdo and a freak back then, but they just kept it all buttoned down. Nah, it's all fucking bullshit, mate. So the idea that like, Oh, desire, it's just always there and you have to give into it. No, that means you've given into it too much. That means it's your master. That means it's abused you. You might think, oh, I don't want to be disciplined. I don't want to have to self-master myself. Well, then you'll be mastered by your desires, by other people, by the people who implement and trigger and navigate and steer those desires within you. And people around you will manipulate you all fucking day long, mate. So you've given into it and abused it in every sense, sexually, mentally, physically. All cravings like this can subside, can be put off. By the way, there's another thing. Why are there certain things and ways of thinking and approaches to things that are so vilified as just evil? The idea you could not think that way or be that way, because they obviously work on some level, don't they? That's what people are afraid of. That's what they're trying to put you off from or stay away. I tell you, don't look at the man behind the curtain. That's what they're doing right there. You can reprogram your mind. You can change who you are. Even buy a simple book like Prometheus Rising and learn to see how your perceptions are different, etc. I absolutely think there's a lot can be done in all these areas. It's not as simplistic as these shit little labels. Right, there we go. There's the AMA for this one. Obviously, check out the Patreon. Sign up to a $10 or above tier if you'd like to submit questions in the future. I'll be doing a poll soon once I get the first one out for the next video that you'll be able to pick from some of these topics. And of course, if you also want to support the channel, like the video, leave a comment below. Share it on social media if you want it, like with just a retweet will do. Maybe buy some Gamersups if you want a delicious energy formula. 10% off with the code Thorin at gamersups.gg. My side channel is very much made possible thanks to my Patreon community. Now, this video was kindly supported by rawdota, Bo Ado Mushroom, and Yerka86. Do you want to choose a topic I focus on next on this channel? Would you like to ask a question for my regular AMA? Do you want teasers? Find out which guests are coming on Thorin Query next for those long, interesting, but unique interviews. Do you want to take part in an exclusive, never to be released discussion with me privately? Well, heed this call to action and join Thorin's side today via the Patreon link in the description box below.